Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kendall Hook. I am the engagement manager for UCD in North America. We're very happy that you're here today, and congratulations on your offer or your conditional offer to study at UCD in the fall. We like to host these information sessions every spring just to bring you all together to share a bit more information about the school, but also some next steps just to get you started in that direction. As you work through your decisions and figure out what your own next steps will be in the fall. So again, I'm Kendall, and I also have my colleague Tessa here. Tessa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Tessa Rendina. I'm an admissions officer and I'm based in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I will be helping Kendall with this presentation.
So we have the information for you here today, but more importantly, we also have several alumni, postgraduate alumni from the US and a current postgraduate student as well, who will be joining us for this presentation. They'll chime in with their own thoughts on certain slides to give you some feedback, but then we also have some designated Q&A time at the end for them to help you all with your questions. So between us, the staff and the alum, hopefully we can get you in a place where you're feeling good about maybe the outstanding questions you have before you make your decision. All right, so let's get started with a video. I sincerely hope that my internet does not fritz out for this video. Apologies if it does.
As I'm in the midst of applying for residency right now, wish me luck, Grammarly has again been a lifesaver with my application in helping me write my personal statement and CV. Grammarly is your digital.
We are University College Dublin, a community built on knowledge that opens the mind and enriches the heart, going far, far beyond the lecture hall to bring transformative learning to life. We've been busy shaping the best of Ireland and bringing it to the world for a long time, inspiring our big thinkers, movers and shakers, turning research and discovery into economic growth and social progress, finding new ways to preserve and celebrate the rich cultural heritage of Ireland, reaching out from Dublin to the world to thrive Le Chéile. We are ambitious and passionate change makers, making strides to impact global health and technology, from the foundations of life to the birth of new artificial intelligence, influencing the fabric of society, our sustainable future, and going always onwards ad astra, to the stars themselves. We are for everyone. Tá áite gachtainna anseo. We are a force for good in the world. We are UCD, and we're just getting started.
Okay. So before we really dive into the meat of it all, I know some of you are still making your decision, but for those of you who plan on accepting your offer or already have accepted your offer, we do want to highlight this opportunity that tends to be popular with some postgrad students before the start of their program. We do have an Irish language and cultural center on campus, and they do host a very short-term program for students who are interested in learning some Irish language before the start of their semester. Don't worry, your programs will be in English, but this is really just an additional cultural experience for anyone who's interested in it before the start of term. Okay, so our team, it's pretty big. Again, my name is Kendall Hook. I am the engagement manager. I'm here in North America, and I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee. You just met my colleague, Tessa, who's in Harrisburg, but we also have several people around the country. So in different time zones, different cities. So no matter where you are, there will be someone to connect with. If you need to connect with someone in particular, you are always welcome to email northamerica@ucd.ie directly, and it will be channeled to the appropriate person, and we'll make sure that your question is answered. So take a note of that email above, because it probably will be helpful as you're going through your decision-making process. And that's our team. So we have Shannon, Jim, Bridie, Chelsea, myself, Tessa, Sarah, and Carrie. And then we have our wonderful current students and alum. Jackie, Sam, Noah, and Shannon. Jackie, do you want to start by introducing yourself, the program you're a part of, and maybe what you're doing now and where you're located?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Jackie Baselli. Yeah, I graduated in 2020, so it'll be 5 years. Oh, since I graduated, I don't want to. That makes me sound very old. I did a master's in international relations and affairs. I worked for the Irish consulate for about 3 years, and I currently now am at Columbia Business School in New York. I'm based in New Jersey. I'm working on study abroad programs so I can help other people achieve their study abroad dreams.
So thank you, Jackie. Sam?
Hi, I'm Sam. I did my undergrad at UCD as well, actually in classics, English, and history. I moved away for a little bit, did a work holiday around, and then I came back to do a master's in environmental resource management. So I'm still here at the moment. I'm still the middle of term, and then I have my thesis to work on this summer. But yeah, so I'm currently still studying and then working part-time. So kind of both.
So thanks, Sam. Noah?
Hi everyone, I'm Noah. I did my master's in public history, graduating in 2022. So it's been a couple of years now. When I first left UCD, I returned home to Las Vegas and worked in the libraries for the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And now I actually work for the International Council on Monuments and Sites, still based in Las Vegas, but national/international organization.
Thank you, Noah. And Shannon?
Hi, I am currently in the Masters of Architecture program here at UCD. This is my first year. I'm originally from Florida and got my bachelor's at the University of Florida. Yeah, also in the middle of term and really enjoying my time so far.
Thank you, Shannon, and thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it, and I know that you're a very valuable asset for these students as they're working through their decision-making process. So we appreciate you being here and helping with some questions that they may have. All right, so a little bit about UCD. If you haven't dived into some of the research on the school yourself quite yet. We are a very large university, Ireland's global university. So we have about 32,000 students or so, and it is about 31% international. So we do have a very geographically diverse campus with students coming from all across the world, 151 nationalities represented, to be exact. But of the 31% international students, about 2,000 are coming from North America, between both the US and Canada. So you certainly will not be the only US student on campus, that's for sure. You will certainly meet them, but you will not be surrounded by Americans. So you really will make friends and meet people from all different parts of the world. And Ireland, of course, 70% or so of the campus is Irish. Nicest people you'll ever meet. Campus itself is a suburban campus in the way that it feels. Technically, on paper, we are considered an urban campus, but in practicality, it feels like a suburban campus, especially compared to the likes of US universities that you've maybe have experienced yourself. So it's about 2.5 to 3 miles south of Dublin city center, about 20 minutes from the heart of the action on the Dublin bus from campus to the hustle and bustle of the city center. We have a very familiar style campus, I would say, compared to some US universities that you might have experienced yourself. Between the academic buildings, the student activities, the residences, the style of campus and the way that it's set up might be familiar to you in your own undergrad experience if you were on a suburban campus yourself. So it is on 300 acres, very green, lots of walking trails. But it is pedestrian friendly through the center. So you could get from the residence halls or the bus stops through the center of campus fairly easily in maybe about a 15-minute walk from end to end. With the exception of architecture, because architecture has its own little slice of campus a little bit farther away. So aside from that program, you would be able to get from end to end in about 15 minutes or so. So something you are probably wondering about are the academics at UCD and how it's different between your own undergrad experience and going abroad to a different country for your postgrad experience. So I will tell you that overall, in general, you will likely get information a bit later than you're used to here in the US. I would say between when you get your email, your class registration, et cetera, that will be towards the end of summer. So you might have to sit tight a little bit longer than you're used to waiting for information, from a US university. But you should have your UCD email should you accept your offer by late August. You will definitely receive it by the time class registration comes around. So class registration or module registration will typically happen in late August. So that is a bit later than what you're used to from your own experience, I know. You'll have what's called core and optional modules. Core modules are your core classes, just as they sound. They are your requirements. And then you have options that are optional. They usually come from a predetermined list of options that you can select from. And your module information will be specific to your program. So everyone will have a different number of cores versus optional. That really comes down to your specific program. And that is information that you should be able to find online on your program page. For grades, you will likely have fewer grades than what you're used to. In the Irish system, there are just typically fewer touch points that make up your final grade. So that is something a bit different than your undergrad experience. Honestly, for my own postgrad experience that was in the US, it was similar in the sense that I had fewer touch points that made up my grade in comparison to my own undergrad experience. And then the results of your final exams won't be up for quite a while. It's usually about 6 weeks after your final exams you find out your final grades. So those are a few high-level differences, but do one of our alumni or current students want to chime in about their own experience, like registering, or how that was different, or how their classes are different from their undergrad?
Sure, I can just share that with my specific course, and I think, a few others within at least the history discipline and perhaps just generally the humanities. Um, it was very self-structured. I actually never did have optional modules where I got to choose anything. I had these classes, and that was what I was taking, and there was um, nothing to do about that. Whereas where I did have more choice was within my research. Research was a really big part of my program and a lot of the programs. So I was able to be more defined in choosing what I wanted to research there. And because of that, that actually makes up the biggest portion of your degree in a lot of cases. So, although you have 4 or 5 classes throughout your time, they might only be worth 10 or so credits each. And then your dissertation that you work on throughout the entire year is worth 50 or 60 credits. So I definitely only had 4 classes. I didn't choose anything, but I had a dissertation where I chose the topic. I worked one-on-one with an advisor, and that was technically more than half of actually achieving my degree.
Awesome. Thank you, Noah. Did any of, this is just a question for any of the alum or current students, but are any of you all in a program where you actually have more options than you do core?
I did. So I actually had a lot of options. I think I had 2 or 3 classes that were core classes that were like, I needed to take, but the rest of it was a lot of optional classes, which I really enjoy because I liked to have the options of taking classes that I didn't have a chance to take during my undergraduate course. Um, so I really enjoy that flexibility. And then I worked on a dissertation as well for the end of my program. But for me, I didn't really have a lot of final exams either. For me, it was a lot more like longer papers, which I kind of appreciated more, but I think every program is really different. So that was just my experience.
Thank you, Jackie. I know we have a couple of questions related to academics that are coming through the chat, and we will take those questions and answer them in the Q&A, just to ensure that we can get through all of the slides in the time we need to. So feel free to pop those questions in the chat, and we will answer them at the end. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, some of you may have accepted your offer already, but if you haven't done so already, if you would like to, you can log into your UCD account and choose the offer of admission to the program you'd like to accept. Some of you might have applied to just one program, some of you to multiple. So you only need to accept one offer. You actually click the accept button and you pay your tuition deposit. Check your offer letter for your decision deadline. You should have the availability to download an offer letter for each of the programs you've applied to, and that will outline the deadline for the decision specifically. So some programs might have a different deadline than the typical deadline that a majority of programs do. So once you accept your offer and you have paid your tuition deposit, your place is set, you're good to go. And we'll just need to have a final copy of your official transcripts sent to North America at ucd.ie over the summer. Life on campus. So as a post-grad student, you do have the availability to join in any clubs and societies that you want to. It is not restricted to just undergrad students. Would truly be a missed opportunity if you didn't get involved in any sort of way while you're there. I think it's an awesome way to intentionally make your world a little bit smaller and start building that community, even for the short time that you're there. There's over 130 different clubs and societies on campus. So there truly is something for everyone, no matter what types of interests you have. We do have a student and sports center on campus. It really is the hub of student activity on campus. It is on the far west side of campus. So if you're looking at the map a couple of slides ago, the far left side, and there are bus stops near to it, and it's easy walk from the rest of the buildings on campus as well. But campus, as I mentioned, does have a lot of amenities that you're used to here in the US. So there's restaurants, cafes, bookshops, a bike shop, barber shop, pubs, post office, and a little grocery store, a Centra, on campus, which is nice. And then we have the UCD Global Lounge as well. That is not the only place to gather, but the UCD Global Lounge is a hub and a center of internationalization on campus. The International Student Society is very large, and they host a lot of events in that Global Lounge. So that is there for you. And if you're not sure what to get involved in, what you want to get involved in, the UCD International Society could certainly be an awesome first step into that scene. Can any of our alum or current students share maybe what they were involved with or what you're currently involved with?
I can. So being in the architecture program, like you kind of mentioned earlier, we're sort of off the main campus a bit. So I've primarily just been involved in the architecture society. It's been really great though, because they, at least for that society itself, focuses on social events. So they have thrown, numerous parties. The past couple of weeks, there's been like a giant like football, soccer tournament going on. And next month there's going to be a formal ball in like a castle, which everyone's super excited for. And it's just really great. And like the first like couple weeks that I was on campus last semester, there was a giant fair with all of the different societies, pitching themselves, and you go around and pick which ones you want to sign up for. Very similar to the US, but it's really great, and there's just many, many, many things to pick from. So it's a great way to meet people.
Thanks, Shannon. Sam or Jackie or Noah, were you involved in any particular student organization?
Yeah, I was in classic society during my undergrad quite a bit, and that was really great. I find a lot of societies like to interact with each other as well. So like we would do a lot of collaborations with like, the history soc or even musical society, because even if you have friends in other societies that are on the committees, you tend to collaborate and you can expand it that way. But I'm also in the clubs, which clubs for us means sports. So sports clubs. So I'm on the American football one actually, and that's what I've been doing more recently, which is really cool. And there's a lot of them. If you're more social for your club, you don't have to be really, really into it or really, really intense about it. There are really casual ones. There's flag, I know there's flag rugby, we have flag football, and a lot of that stuff. So there's a lot of different levels. If you want to be really intense about your sport, or if you don't want to be it, there's a lot of different things to get involved with. And usually people are really nice. I've heard that from most places at least. Can't say for everyone, but usually people want you to have a good time and are happy to be there.
Thank you both.
I joined the International Student Society. Highly recommend that. They do because you get to meet, Americans, but you also get to meet people from all around the world. And they did a lot of fun like group trips around Ireland. So I thought that was a great opportunity.
Thanks, Jackie. Okay, accommodation. I know you all probably have a lot of questions related to accommodation, and the two main options are on campus or off campus. I will say that a vast majority of our postgrad students are off campus, but we do have some on-campus options. So housing availability is very limited on campus, but there is availability right now. I can't tell you if it will be available tomorrow, but it is currently available right now. So it's very limited, but there are spots. So if you have accepted your offer and paid your deposit, then you can apply for on-campus housing. So time is of the essence if that's something you're interested in, because we don't know when postgraduate bed spaces will be full. But that is something to consider. If you're interested in it, you do have to have accepted your offer and paid your deposit. And then within 24 hours of paying your deposit, you should then be able to apply for on-campus housing. For on-campus housing, should you apply for it, we do recommend being on the Belfield campus unless you're specifically studying a postgraduate business program at Smurfit. Smurfit is the graduate business school, and it is its own campus called Blackrock. So when you're looking through the housing options, Belfield is the main campus where all the graduate programs are, with the exception of the Smurfit programs. So something to consider, we recommend looking at Belfield first. There will be an option between 38 weeks and 50 weeks when you're booking into on-campus accommodation. And that really depends on the length of your program. So you need to look at your program specifically to see if you need to stay through the summer for any particular reason. So you book into the correct option between 38 week and 50 weeks. Keep an eye on your emails, because if there is housing availability, as we go through the spring semester, you will be emailed. So keep an eye on your email. That's very important. And Tessa will slide into the chat the link to the virtual tours and prices, so you can take a look at what's there and what would be appropriate for your budget. Noah, I know you lived on campus for your graduate program. Do you mind maybe talking a little bit about why you chose to live on campus, and then I guess who you lived with, and what your experience was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a really great experience living on campus. I think first and foremost, the most important thing to share about living on campus is it's not at all like in the United States. I think when we hear living on campus here, we imagine a dorm, sharing a room with one or two other people, sharing a bathroom with those same people. You don't have a kitchen, right? And it's not like that at UCD. When you live on campus, you have your own independent bedroom, your own independent bathroom, and then you and your roommates really just share a kitchen and living space. So it's very much like living in an apartment. In fact, even a little better, because, I think in most cases when we share an apartment with people, we still share a bathroom with them, and you don't have to do that here. You get your own, which is really nice. Um, so when I first arrived, was when the UCD Village first opened up. So that's actually the picture, the big one on your screen there. So it was very new when I got there. I was lucky that I got to be the first person to ever live in my room. And I stayed on campus for the entire year. The one kind of shift about it is they minimize the campus housing over summer, because they have a lot of different, like, non-college age programs that come in, summer institutes and people. So at summertime, I did have to move from the village to Glenamina, which was one of the older, not as nice, but still very functional on-campus living spaces. Um, and it was, of course, cheaper because, it was older and things of that sort. Um, the people I lived with were always really great. My first semester was very international. We were all graduate students. There was one from England, two from France, one from Italy, and then one other American and I. So, definitely a big culture blend, and we were all in different programs. They all only had to be there for the one semester, so they moved out. In the second semester, I got a whole new batch of roommates, which very differently happens to all kind of be American study abroad students. So I got to have both experiences of living very internationally and kind of a cultural mesh, which was fun. And then also I got to have an experience of living with other Americans who could, relate to your experience. When you live off campus, a lot of the student housing options are kind of identical to what you see on campus. It's the same setup of your own room, your own bathroom, a shared kitchen with other people. The difference just is it's off campus. So when you come in for classes, you have to commute, and that kind of makes a difference on how often you actually have to be on campus or not. And then, of course, people do find more standard like houses or apartments or things that they live with people, but that can be really challenging to find when you don't actually live in the country yet. So that's why I just decided it was worth it to just be on campus, have my own space there. Um, I know they say apply a lot. I absolutely encourage that as well, that you should apply early, but I will throw out there that one of my roommates didn't have housing. She thought she was going to find off-campus housing. She arrived 2 weeks before the semester, couldn't find anything she was satisfied with. So she did manage to speak to housing and beg and beg and beg, and lo and behold, she became my roommate. So it worked out for her. I wouldn't advise that that's the procedure you should take. You never guarantee, but um, I have faith that the university will ensure that you're not homeless.
I was muted. Apologies. Thank you, Noah. That's a great segue for the off-campus accommodation resources. I will add to what Noah said about the change in Noah's semester between who he was living with in semester 1 versus semester 2. At UCD, housing is all mixed together. You can be in mixed sex apartments. It could be mixed ages. So it could be study abroad, it could be undergrad, it could be post-grad. Everyone is all mixed together. So we don't have designated post-grad only housing. So that's good to keep in mind if on campus is your preference. For off campus, Noah mentioned they are pretty identical to the setup that you'll find at UCD. They're just around the city and they're not owned by any one particular school. So you could be in a student flat in your own room, but maybe in a flat with students from Trinity or from DCU or from the tech school down the street. So everyone can be mixed together and it's just third party owned. On our residence's website, there are some resources to help you start looking. For off campus, I would definitely look at those resources first. We don't necessarily like, what is the word I'm looking for? I want to say sponsor. We don't necessarily recommend any one particular housing option, but those resources are a good, at least recommended place to start looking. And our big advice is to never hand over money for accommodation in the private sector without viewing the property in person first. I know that can be difficult. So students tend, if they're able to come over like mid to late July and start looking at private accommodation. And we don't recommend that because, starting with like COVID in particular, there just was a lot of scams across every country for housing. So we always recommend that you actually see a place in person to know it's real and that it's there before you fork over any money for it. Sam, Jackie, or Shannon, you all lived off campus. Do you have any suggestions or advice?
I've only lived here for about 6 months, but I have two sort of experiences already. So I was sort of in the group of people that was freaking out because I'm used to doing things so early. But upon getting here, I got it was sort of like a private student apartment thing, and there's plenty of different companies out in Dublin that have these. The one I was in particular was called Niche Living, and it is somewhat away from campus, and they are expensive. But I trusted it because I was like I didn't want to come into the country with no housing. So, and I know a lot of people share that same like fear, especially if they can't get the on-campus housing. And so I just, was like, oh, it's fine. I'll just live there for a few months until I can find somewhere else. And so then while I was living there, I was looking through UCD Accommodation Pad, which I highly recommend, honestly, because you can find a lot of great situations, and almost everyone that I know here has their housing through it. And so primarily a lot of them are like these families in Dublin who have rooms available in their home that they're willing to rent out to students. And so that's what I ended up doing. My situation in particular is a bit rare. I found a family that has a studio apartment. They converted their back garage into it. And so I have like my own space, which is great. But a lot of my friends, they live with a family, and they have no complaints about it either. They feel safe, and they get their own space, and it's great. So I definitely recommend looking into that if that's something that you're worried about. But I like they said, like you're gonna find a place. I wouldn't freak out too much. Like you'll be okay.
Thank you, Shannon. Sam, you did both undergrad and postgrad at UCD. So do you want to talk a little bit about your housing experience?
Yeah, I of course have been in the same panicky boat. I actually did on campus my first year because for undergrads you guaranteed housing for your first year. And I thought it'd be like the US. I will say it's not like Noah said, like the US in a few different ways. Also, like on campus life isn't the same as campus life in the States at all. They try to have some res life, which is people who live residency life events and everything, which is really cool and really fun. But a lot of students commute. They come in every day. So it's not like there's big tournaments or a lot of games people are knowing about and things like that. Um, so second year, I decided to live in student accommodation off campus. And for my last 2 or so years, I've bounced to between different locations. And I'd say when you're looking at different locations, if you know it's student accommodation, the way I judged where I wanted to go was just to look up the bus route. So I just went on Google Maps and typed in the address of student accommodation to UCD. I just saw which one I thought was best with the buses. And they're all roughly the same price, roughly the same style and vibe and everything. Um, I will also say, depending on where you go on UCD, if you go with the cheapest options, Belgrove is where I was, and then Merville. Unfortunately, there you do have to share a bathroom, but I think you have 2 bathrooms minimum for 4 people, or up or down depending. So you don't have to share with like the whole dorm. It's just your housemates, like if you share with your brother. And then now, when I moved back, I actually moved back a year to do a work holiday here as well before I started my schooling. And I was doing a little bit of a risky business on Daft, and I was trying to email people. And when I couldn't come here, but I had friends who were here who offered they used to look for me. But the way I got my current house now, um, it's actually just a house where individuals live. They're all roughly my age, but I did a FaceTime tour, which again depends on how you feel about that. I was also very desperate because I didn't want to come back and have nowhere to live because that's a bit iffy. I would also say, depending on housing, student accommodation off campus, they book up fast. So if you want to get those buildings that you know are nice and secure, I would look into them as soon as you can because they do have it open for a couple years, like a semester or so ahead of time. And I know they book up real quick. And then housing, like I'm in now, is very subjective. You might find some online that are listed, oh, in about 2 months' time. Some are like opening a week before they want people in. So it's very, you need it closer to the time, but it varies a lot. So you really have to kind of, I say, trust your gut. Always check in person if you can. At least do a FaceTime tour minimum. And if you can, just do your best. It is stressful, and I get that, but something will pop up eventually, even if it's last minute somewhere. If you hear about it in person by someone, it helps.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you both. Okay, just for the sake of time, I know there's lots of questions about housing, so we can definitely get to those at at the end for sure. Moving on to some important dates with Tessa.
Thanks, Kendall. And yes, sorry, I cannot get to everyone's questions in the chat right now. We hope to get back to you a little bit later. But I did see a couple questions about important timelines throughout the year. So I hope that I can answer some of those with our important dates in this section. So as you can see, our autumn trimester begins usually that first or second week of September. So you can see this year it's going to be September 8th. So it is a little bit later than maybe some US schools, but not too far off. We definitely recommend moving in at least a week before classes start. That way you can enjoy some of the student orientation activities beginning around September 1st. And then also too, if you are looking for housing, giving yourself some time to be able to view some accommodations there as well. There will be some different orientation events throughout UCD Global, but you will actually have some specific ones to your program/course. So if you have any questions about that, just know that you will receive via email information about your program specific orientation events. We'll harp this kind of throughout the summer and things as well. definitely check your email. That's where you're going to find a lot of this information. So again, that's student orientation, and then semester begins. You can see that final exams are within a range, so December 6th to the 20th for this year. So what we typically recommend when you're looking at flights and you're looking to book your flight, your return flight, maybe for winter break, I would definitely recommend booking it for maybe the day after or just right after the exam range. The reason that I recommend that is because you will not know exactly when your exams are going to be occurring until about halfway or midway through the semester. So your professors will let you know during that time, usually around October, when exactly your exams, final assessments are going to take place. We just want to make sure that you're not missing out on your exams or having to change your flight unnecessarily. So I would definitely recommend booking it for after that time. You can see here that the spring semester will begin January 19th, so about midway, late January. That gives you some time to be home if you would like to with your family over the winter holidays, and typical to other graduate programs where you might just be coming home during that time, but you could also travel during that time if you would like to as well. I did graduate school in Ireland, and a lot of my friends who were from Ireland, some of them were going skiing on trips around Europe. So you could do that as well. But also, if you're a little homesick, want to spend time with your family, that's a great month to have a chunk of a break during that time. You can see here that there is a spring break. So it is quite long. I would definitely recommend checking in with your program to make sure that if you do have any in-person fieldwork that you would need to do, that you are available for that. Otherwise, this time is really a time for studying, getting a jump start on your research, preparing for your spring trimester exams. So this is a time that you still want to think about academics, but I will say a lot of our students do take advantage of this 2-week spring break to maybe travel further into Ireland if they haven't gotten too many places yet, or to go interrailing around mainland Europe. So offers an opportunity and a time to do that as well. And then finally here you can see there's a little bit of a break between the end of the semester, spring semester, and the start of the summer trimester. So not too long. You have that really long spring break there, and then you have your exams, and then you'll have your summer trimester. Typically during this time, thesis work, research, so if there's going to be specific dates when you need to be in person, we don't have that for every single program in this presentation here, but your program coordinator and thesis advisor will be able to give you a little bit more information closer to of when you need to be on campus, if you do need to be on campus for anything, and certain deadlines for your thesis projects there. And then you can see that final exams and things are done. That final time is August 15th through the 22nd. You can find more on our key dates webpage there as well. So just to transition over a little bit to federal aid at UCD. So similar to the US, in that process, if you are American, you can file the FAFSA with us and file for graduate loans. There are a couple key differences to be aware of. So if you haven't filed already, I definitely recommend doing so. And with our code, it is G10188. We can throw that in the chat as well. It's pretty easy to find online, but if you have any questions about that, feel free to let us know. And again, that's G10188. To submit your FAFSA with our code. So we'll receive your FAFSA information, and then we send you a cost of attendance or COA letter. After you receive that, then there will be one more form on your end, our U.S. financial aid form, and that will be due sometime in July. I do want to shout out our live webinar that's happening on April 12th. So for more in-depth information about U.S. federal loans, so I apologize if you have in-depth questions about U.S. federal loans now. The webinar is going to be a really good chance to get a little bit more into our federal loans process. We also do take Canadian provincial loans as well. So if you are on the call and you're Canadian, just know that we can take loans from Canada too. You can see at the top that we do take the GI Bill, veterans VA benefits as well. If you have any questions about that, you can check what programs are available for that online. If your program is currently not available, I definitely recommend reaching out to federal aid at ucd.ie, which is going to be our federal aid office. So they'll be able to provide some more information on that process of getting new programs approved. Finally, consult your email for federal aid instructions brochure and more information again about that cost of attendance. And then just a caution to those with internships and Inspire programs, just keep in mind that there might be some differences in there as well. And in addition to loans, and as we're thinking about federal aid, we also do provide scholarships too. So here you can see that we have our Global Excellence Scholarship. The deadline is March 31st at 11:59 p.m. Irish time. I really want to emphasize Irish time because it is a hard cutoff. And I know that we're all in different time zones here. So definitely something to keep in mind as you're filling out your GES application to please get it in before March 31st midnight Irish time. So I would even recommend just a couple days before if you're able to, just in case there's any issues with it, to hopefully have that prepared and ready before March 31st. So if you're sitting here wondering what is Global Excellence Scholarship, the GES scholarship is either 50% or 100% of tuition covered. It is one of our most competitive scholarship programs. However, I definitely recommend that all of our students apply for it. So I would say that if you're not sure whether to apply or not, just still apply. You never know. It's going to be a couple short responses, but also based on merit. And then in your offer letter, you should be able to see if your program is eligible for ISS, that's our International Student Scholarship, that will just automatically be in your offer letter based on merit from your application. You don't have to do anything additional. That will be about 15 to 30% of tuition covered. And then you can see too, Brian Mullins Ambassador Award for Gaelic Games. This is our new scholarship. If you have any experience with any of the Gaelic games, whether it's hurling, Gaelic football, handball, and you want to continue your passion at UCD, I definitely recommend applying for that scholarship. The application is live and recipients would be awarded up to €5,000 per year of their program. And then the last scholarship here is our Government of Ireland application. March 5th is the deadline. This is the Government of Ireland. It's not specifically with UCD. The only thing that I really want to note about this one is that they will usually the awards aren't revealed until later, like in the summer, like June or July. So if you are looking to have a further notice or an earlier notice of the awards, that GES scholarship, we usually let you know hopefully by late April around that time of whether you've been awarded that, which is before that May 1st deadline, which is pretty common in the US. Career and alumni support. So we are #1 in Ireland for the 5th year in a row for graduate employability, which is super exciting. We have nearly 300,000 alumni around the world. We also have 14 alumni chapters just in North America. I was honored to get to attend one of our alumni events in New York City this past semester about the business of sports. Super cool panel to sit in from some of our alums, even one of our alums helping with our Olympic uniforms for the Irish team in Paris last summer. So if you notice that the Irish teams did have like their little county crest on their uniforms, that was actually input from a UCD alum. So that was really cool because here in Ireland, there's a lot of pride in what country you're from, or sorry, what county you're from. So getting to include that, it was really cool to see that that was a UCD alumni. We also have our UCD alumni network available. So that it will be available in your student welcome hub. So you can even check out that network before you step foot on campus. But then when you're on campus as a current student, even afterwards as an alumni, you can reach out to alumni who are mentors. You can become a mentor yourself later on and give back to the UCD community. You are eligible as well by doing one of our graduate programs for a 2-year stay back visa after you graduate. So if you would like to seek employment in Ireland, you can do so. As well as if you wanted to go back to the US, you can do that. But this allows you an opportunity to look for a job that will sponsor you to stay, or to spend those 2 years working and then maybe going back home to the US or Canada. We do also have Jumpstart, which I believe we might be sending a link into the chat there. Just online resources to help develop skills. So if you're even looking at like CV versus a resume, they help with some of those things of adjusting from the American or Canadian market over to the Irish job market as well. Another program that I really want to emphasize as well, as you've been looking at some things online about UCD or even your specific programs, you might have noticed that sustainability is really big with UCD. We're actually the most sustainable university in Ireland, and we are in the top 50 in the world according to the QS sustainability rankings in 2024. So this is something that's really important to us. As you've been checking out your courses, you might have seen at the top of the webpage some information about what United Nations sustainability goals that your program specifically focuses on. You can see that throughout your modules or your class lists. So I think that's something that's really cool that UCD does. We actually have started a new program. So our sustainability food system degree, it's our newest degree on campus. It focuses on the 3 pillars of sustainability, which is environmental, economic, and social, and applies to all parts of the food chain. So you're going to explore sustainability or sustainably producing food, while at the same time trying to meet nutrition requirements of a growing world population, also while protecting the planet's limited natural resources. So there's a lot that goes into this program, but it's super important. So I definitely recommend checking out our Sustainable Food Systems program if you haven't already. We also have some meet and greets coming up. So some of you might already be signed up, which is super exciting. We can't wait to see you at some of our offer holder events that are in person. So you can see we have Washington, D.C., Boston, Massachusetts, New York City, Chicago, a couple in California, and then Seattle, Washington. So we do hope to see you at one of our in-person events. If you can't make it, we'll chat a little bit later too about our WhatsApp group and some other virtual opportunities. But if you can make it in person and you want to, these are some great opportunities to meet some of our staff. I know myself, I'll be at the New York City and the DC event, and Kendall will also be at a couple of these events, DC, Boston, and New York as well. And again, check your email. Another great opportunity. Check your email for the registration information. So planning ahead. So we talked a little bit about flights, about accommodations and things, just some other things to think about. If you are looking at any other universities that are in the UK, it is going to be a totally different process. Even in Northern Ireland, even though we're on the same island, they're going to have a different immigration process than we will in the Republic of Ireland. So just something to keep in mind as you're looking at different schools. So for us, we have what's called our Irish residency permit. So you do not need to apply for a visa before you arrive. So you might already know this, but just some brief explanation of that. When you arrive in Ireland, we'll have a checklist of some items that we think you need for Irish Border Control. And then right after you arrive and you registered for your classes, you can actually online now. Our alumni might not have been able to do it online, but online you can now register for your appointment with immigration or call. And when you have that appointment, we'll also have another checklist of things that we recommend bringing to that appointment. And that's how you'll get your Irish residency permit. This will allow you to re-enter the country if you decide to leave on vacation or go home over winter break. It will allow you to stay over 90 days and also work part-time during the semesters or full-time during the breaks as well. So it is a really easy process. You get to do it on the back end instead of having to wait for your visa to arrive, which can be a little bit of a stressful process. So it just makes it a little bit easier that you get to do it after you arrive. It's just one less thing to worry about before you leave the US or Canada. Some other things, we have some packing tips. My biggest packing tip is you do not need an entire bottle of shampoo and conditioner in your check-on bag. I promise once you get here, some of those items you can get from IKEA, from TK Maxx. Residences will do some events as well, but you can go into town and grab some of those items. I think some of our alumni had mentioned in the chat that you can get your bedding and sheets and blankets and things from places. So some of those things that you can do after you arrive, just to save you a little bit of packing on the front end again. And also if you're worried about the amount of weight in your bags as well, just know you do not need those. You can grab those when you get here and maybe just have some travel size shampoo and conditioners as well. Definitely recommend attending September orientation. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Just knowing too, this is a big difference from the US to Ireland, is that your class registration is a lot later. So your class registration might be actually right when you arrive. Maybe it is a little bit before you leave. So that's on the website as well. You can find that on key dates. But for your specific course and school, it'll be different on exactly when your date is, but all of the schools will send out an email about a week before class registration, which with some more info. And then you might even be registering when you're here on campus. The reason we do that is because a lot of our undergrad Irish students don't find out which school they're attending until mid-August. So it is a little bit of a later process than it is in the United States. Health insurance, this is another big one. So UCD does have a discount code with VHI, which is the largest healthcare provider in Ireland. So you'll be able to find that information on the website. There are, of course, other health insurance options that you could use as well. There is just the requirement of the home policy must demonstrate coverage for up to 25,000 euro in hospital costs, and you must ensure validity that it will apply abroad as well. So just some things to keep in mind about health insurance. But we do have a pharmacy on campus. There's a GP on campus. We also have urgent care very close to campus as well. There is also counseling services on campus. There is 24/7 text if you need it. So there is also out of hours resources, but just knowing that there is pharmacy, GP, counseling. And I will recommend to check out some of our web pages a little bit. There are a couple frequently asked question web pages about specific medications and prescriptions. So as you're flying to a new country, just keep in mind that some prescriptions are regulated a little bit differently in Ireland than they may be in the United States. So if you currently are on a prescription, I definitely recommend talking to your doctor about that, checking out our website a little bit of how that prescription might change or how that might be regulated differently in Ireland than it is in the US or Canada. Awesome. And then I mentioned earlier our WhatsApp group. So this is definitely the time to get out your phone, scan the QR code, get involved in our WhatsApp groups. This is a great way to meet people and to meet other people who might be in your courses, who might be in your accommodations. So I definitely recommend joining the WhatsApp group. That's going to be a great way to connect with people. And again, especially if you can't make it to any of our offer holder events, this is a great way to just meet people online ahead of time as well. We also have our UCD Global Facebook group and our Student Welcome Hub, and also the Alumni Connector that we've mentioned a couple of times up until this point, that you can also connect with that too. But if you're looking to connect with other incoming students, that's where the WhatsApp group is going to be a really good resource. And then some other resources here that we'll check in on real quick. So as we mentioned a little bit about the student portal, definitely a good place to find some more information. I know I mentioned checking your email. We try to limit our emails to really important information. So definitely keep a lookout for emails from us. And then I do want to recommend as well, check out our Jargon Buster online. As I've mentioned, like modules, courses, programs, like what is the difference between all of those things? The Jargon Buster is a really good place to see that. Module just means class, where a course or program is your major. And then when you see clubs and societies as well, clubs is sports, societies is clubs. So definitely gets a little confusing coming into a different context. So just recommend checking out the Jargon Buster as well. Definitely follow us on social media accounts too. UCD Global is a great one to check out. I definitely recommend following us there and read your offer pack. That's going to have a lot of helpful information for you too.
All right, thank you, Tessa. That is just our socials. Let me stop recording real quick. I just want to say thank you all for being here. I'm going to stop the recording now before